Hey guys, GWS here. Something that I really need to talk about in between getting into larger content, which I will probably get into larger content on my channel soon. I don't know if it's going to be gaming, politics, whatever, but yeah, we'll get into that when it comes. I just wanted to address this issue of AOC, Amazon, job losses, commentary, conservative and liberal, billboards, etc. Now, the reason I got this particular video up, this is, I think, Michael Knowles here, but Ben Shapiro is kind of the one I've been listening to on this, and as well as various other liberals, and just like Billboards in New York criticizing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, first of all, if you listen to my other videos, I've made several videos on AOC. And she is not a smart person. She's not qualified for her position. She does not understand economics. I don't think that she is a good faith politician. I think she's a lot more in for herself than anything. I say that, but I gotta say, this is one issue where progressives are 100% right about. The whole Amazon thing. So what is the Amazon thing? Well, basically, Amazon went on this bidding tour of various large metropolitan areas. And they were trying to look for both the best population and the biggest sweetheart deal that a city was going to offer. And you have all these cities offering these massive packages to Amazon for them to move to their city. Like New York, it was $3 billion plus this, plus something to do with rent and space. There's a lot to the package. And then you had like Chicago, Baltimore, and various other cities offering these deals to Amazon for them to move there. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, basically New York won the competition with their huge $3 billion tax subsidy sweetheart deal that they were offering. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez comes along. She wins the 14th in New York, and she starts heavily criticizing Amazon, and she gets a pretty large following behind her of people who agree with her. And then Amazon decides fairly recently to pull out of New York. They're not going to be building their second headquarters there. And now you have all these people taking a huge dump on AOC. And to me, it's not fair and it's not right. And here's the thing. First of all, when she says it's giving Amazon $3 billion and that you could spend that money elsewhere, that is false. And that's a fact that's false, because it's a subsidy. It's not, it's not even a subsidy. It's a tax break. A subsidy is when you give that kind of money. But the whole problem is, it's like she's, if not by accident, probably by accident, but she is right about this issue. And that is that, yeah, of course, Amazon's offering all this and then all these jobs and all that. First of all, what kind of jobs are they? Like, these are high-paying, six-figure tech jobs that they're offering. So who's this going to displace? This is going to displace more poor people. And yeah, it's going to offer more jobs, but at what cost? Because, you've given them $3 billion tax breaks, which other businesses do not get. This intentionally favors other businesses, but most importantly, now all of a sudden you have a huge part of your taxes from one company. And then who does your master become? Because you've given all this. It's like building a stadium. Another thing I'm against, which, I could jump into that rabbit hole, but I'm not going to because I could speak hours about that one. But it's like building a stadium. Like the state, like you get all these jobs, you get this, how they say, oh, everybody benefits, and then it's like, you look at who actually benefits, it's not the people who live there. At least not the poor or middle class. And so here's the thing. It's like, in a laissez-faire marketplace, you don't give benefits to companies. This is the standard Ronald Reagan supply-side economics that creates huge inequality. And that is what it is. See, with economics, people mistake supply-side economics with free market economics. They're not the same thing. Supply-side economics is when you favor the supplier over the consumer in terms of, your tax structure. Your regulatory structure, subsidies, tax breaks, etc. Like, you give incentive to companies so that they get the benefits, and basically the whole economy as a whole benefits, and thus the poor will benefit. It's mistakenly called trickle down, but that's not exactly how it works either. But the fact is, supply side economics is not free market economics, equilibrium economics. When Adam Smith talks about the invisible hand, he doesn't talk about giving sweetheart deals to suppliers and protecting them against risk and all this stuff that our tax code does. And so what does that have to do with this? Well, when you're giving Amazon this money, it's not a free market. This is textbook corporatism. When you are favoring not just corporations, but one company, you are giving a specific deal to one company. And I think they did this with Google too. And the same kind of thing. It's like you're giving a benefit to one company who is looking for a city that's willing to buy them, willing to purchase their presence. That's not how economics should work. And that's one. Progressives are right about it for the wrong reason, like I said, because basically if progressives could get by with getting rid of the private sector, they would, and they can tell me all they want otherwise. But the reality is what the reality is. There's nothing about capitalism they favor. In saying that, yeah, that actually accidentally makes them right about this particular issue. And it's just basically, before this, as I said, I did not have a lot of respect for AOC. I thought she was in it for herself, and and I still think there's some extent of her that's in it for herself. But it takes a lot of bravery when you know that you're going to get slammed by very powerful political elites like Como, or however you pronounce his name, from New York, the governor. He led into her. Like I said, you had the Billboards laying into her. You had basically all these different people just giving her all kinds of crap. And she deserves crap, but not for this. Like, New York needs more equality, not less. They need a more business-friendly environment for all businesses, not just for certain businesses. And it's just like, you cannot have this corporatism. And the irony of the whole thing is, the socialist policies, that discourage business in New York makes them very vulnerable to this, because New York is not a very, at least new business friendly area. Businesses that are established or large businesses have benefit there. And so they become vulnerable to this because it's not every day that a business comes, especially a big business, comes knocking on the door. And they feel compelled to have to answer that door and to give whatever's required, because their business is so toxic and corrosive that only companies as large as Amazon can afford to pay the regulations, can afford to go through all the hoops and hurdles required to get a business in New York. And that's ultimately what always ends up happening, especially in these large urban areas that become very socialized. It becomes corporatism. Detroit, the same thing. What does Detroit do? They cater to the big auto companies and the big auto unions. And who gets left out? All the small businesses, any business that wants to move in. So you have, say, for example, this company that offers these six-figure jobs. And it's like they feel like they have to accommodate this company, and that's what Detroit often does. But that money doesn't go to the poor. You still see their streets are, pothole infested, all that. It's just, it's not a system. It does not work out. This is why you want a as pure as possible free market with a safety net and with a few basic rules. But you only want the government marginally attached to the marketplace. And what I mean by that is, like, you can't pollute somebody else's land. You got to have rules for interacting with other people. Like, the federal government needs to make rules so that one state's actions can't be totally detrimental to the others. To their physical land or assets or access to waterways, etc. Things like that. You need basic government involvement, and this involvement does have some effect on the marketplace, but it's a minimal impact, and you want to keep the government's impact to just that, where it's only indirect influences on the market and not an attempt to influence the marketplace. See what you have right now with financial regulations, wage regulations, overtime, etc. How many hours you could work, hire, fire. Like, this is the government trying to centralize at least parts of the economy. Centrally plan it, and that's where it doesn't work, because that's where you get where now all of a sudden companies have a huge incentive to invest what they have to in the government, be it federal, state, or local government, to get what they want. And this is where you get where lobbying has this impact. And this is another subject that can kind of go down the rabbit hole, but I got to cut this off at some point. Basically, AOC is not wrong about what she says. She is 100% right. Conservatives are wrong on this, liberals are wrong on this, and that's just the end of the story. Lay off her and actually get on to her about real criticisms about her stupidity regarding economics, and not this nonsense corporatism that people are trying to push. Corporatism does not work, has never worked, has never helped the poor, and the sooner people realize that, the better. Thanks for listening, guys. God bless.